So we're going to be discussing the Mark 1 right now. So around 1815, 1816, the British and the Nepalese, who had been at war for the previous 2 years, fought each other to a standstill, and the Nepalese then sued for peace. The British quickly agreed to this and then turned around and hired the Nepalese soldiers to serve in their own troops. This two major benefits of this. First, stopped the Nepalese from reforming and fighting them because they were taking all their soldiers away, and second, it enabled the British to have a bunch of really good fighters. So they formed that alliance, and ever since then the Nepalese have joined the British forces as the Gurkhas and served as a Gurkha regiment. Now, from sort of that time up until about 1903, the Gurkhas would turn up with their own kukri on their side, and that was their main weapon. They were issued with rifles and things as well, but a lot of the rifles in the early days were very ineffective, would jam, and the Nepalese were more than happy to then pull out their kukri and win the war, win the battle, whatever they were doing with the kukri. So, but they would just bring their own knives along and use those. Now, in about 1902, one of the British commanders decided that this wasn't a good idea, mainly because of the shape. So some of them would have, these long, thin sirapatis on their side, which were great, very effective, very popular weapons. Some of them would have, slimmer Angolas, like this one, on their side, and then some of them obviously would have the Bhojpuri sort of fish head models on their side. And why they didn't like that was because on the parade ground they will look different. So the British decided to create and issue a standardised kukri that would look the same. And what they came up with was this here, which was the Mark 1. Now, it differed a lot from the Nepalese standard knife in some ways, and other ways it was exactly identical. Where the first one was designed and who designed it, I'm not sure. They differed in some ways though. First, it had a brown sheath, some had black, but most were brown. The handle though is the key in this blade to a certain extent. The handles previously had looked on kukris much like this. They were wooden, rat tang, probably partial tang, so the tang probably finished about there. They were burnt into the handle and glued in place. Occasionally they would come off and they would just be re-glued. Sometimes they even broke, and that wasn't a problem. You just grabbed a piece of wood, carved it, burnt it back in, re-glued it, there was your handle. So that wasn't an issue, but like I said, occasionally the handle did come off because it was just the glue was a tree gum, I believe, the laha I think it's called. So they changed the handle when they designed the new one. It's a rat tang still. The handle goes thin and through, all the way through, and then the wood at the back has a hole drilled into it a bit wider, and a nut is then attached. So the end of that piece of metal coming through is threaded, the nut's put on the end, it's screwed into place, and then filed off smooth. The blade itself was made with war in mind. It's fighting. It's big, it's heavy, designed for chopping and stabbing and slicing, but as well as, people, it's designed to chop wood, to build shelters, to reinforce guns by chopping down trees. So this is designed to be an absolute solid beast. Now this is an imitation, reproduction maybe is a better word. It's made by Torah blades, but I think it's pretty accurate. And it's when they made them, they didn't have the manufacturing capabilities in Nepal, so they were made in India. A couple were made in England, and they're all of varying degrees of finish and performance, but essentially they're designed to look the same. This particular one is designed to represent one called Fort Williams where they were made, and the cho is the giveaway. It's designed to look like the crown sort of jewels or a palace. That's what it's designed to look like. But the characteristic of this was that it was solid, really well built, and was issued from 1903 to about 1915. They stopped the manufacturing of them, but there was still enough around that they were issued up until about 1917. In 1915 they designed a different model, the Mark II, whereas this one here is the Mark I. A really solid, beautiful, and uniquely handled one. Not all of them had that sunken nut, and I believe that would have been a hard part to produce. So some of them just had a tang running all the way through. I've seen some with a metal plate on the end of that as well. But yeah, this was the Mark I. It was the first British designed and issued knife, and ever since 1903 the Gurkhas have all been issued knives. Sometimes they would replace them with their own knives later on, but now they're issued with two, one in a plastic sheath and a blunt blade for parade purposes, and one which is designed for active duty. However many of them actually use the active duty ones, and how many of them replace them with ones they feel are more effective is another point. This also has a brass protector on the end of it, and a military style frog which can come off and come on, and they weren't issued with a check mark or a card. They were just issued as is, although I have seen ones that had a tinder pouch tucked down here. And I also suggest that some of them may have been made by smiths attached to the regiments, and they possibly were issued with the smaller ones when they were making them as well. So that is the Mark I. Beautiful, beautiful, unique, incredibly powerful and strong kukri. And even though this is only a reproduction, I would probably never ever get rid of it. It's just such a nice design, and such an essential piece for someone who is interested in the history of kukris, really. Thanks, guys.